Hello again. Welcome to Module 2, where we're going to take a look at behaviors of addiction and understanding behaviors in general. I think you'll find this module pretty exciting. I know it's one of my favorite modules that was very influential in my own recovery when I could start to understand my own behaviors. So let's get rocking and rolling. I will share my PowerPoint with you and we will move right along. Module 2 on behaviors. And what we're going to do is we're going to identify some common behaviors of substance use disorder, try to gain an understanding of why folks continue to use despite negative consequences, and a glimpse at the reality of behavior change. Think about a behavior change that you wanted to make or were advised to make because of a potential negative consequence, health outcome, or just to improve the quality of your life. Do you have it? I think we all have them. I'm going to ask you to think at this moment, were you successful on your first attempt at your behavior change? Were you ultimately successful? Did you ultimately achieve the desired behavior change that you set out to do initially? How challenging was it for the one behavior change? Give it on a scale from 1 to 10. The reality is, I hope you've discovered that behavior change is hard, and the brain doesn't like to be outside of its comfort zone. It's not that we don't want to change, we don't have the desire to change, but we're dealing with this force called the brain. And the brain has established neural pathways, it has established messaging, it has established routines, and the brain likes it there. It feels safe. And just like in the first module, we talked about the brain has a biological need for survival. I mean, that's the whole purpose of the brain. The brain likes to feel safe. It doesn't like to be challenged and put outside of its comfort zone. So when we think about it, and we ask the question, who wants change? I think a lot of people would answer, I'd like some change in my life at some level. I'd like some improvements. And then we ask the question, well, who wants to change? Not who wants change, but who wants to change? And many of us know that behavior change is hard, and it requires a lot of effort, a lot of focus, a lot of dedication, a lot of consistency. And for some, the quest to behavior change is not worth the journey. It's just not worth the effort in our minds. So we don't change. And the reality is, if we think about it, maybe you've heard where there's a will, there's a way, right? With willpower and discipline and commitment, you can change and you can do and you can be anything. And that's probably true for the most part, right? But not always. The reality is, human behavior is such that in order to override the comfort zone of the brain, requires us digging very, very deep for a meaning or a purpose or a need to change. And most of us have at some point or another probably tried a diet change. And some studies show that 95% of all diets fail. 95% of all diets fail in these studies. So that means 5% of the population in this study that have tried a diet has failed. Another study that Eric Zimmerman, who's a behavioral coach and a podcast coach, he has some great TED Talks. I encourage you to listen to him. So it says that only 92% of the people 92% of people do not keep their New Year's resolution. After 18 days, according to Eric Zimmerman, Only 8% of the people who have established a New Year's resolution have kept it after 18 days. So if you take a number like 100, 95 people out of those 100 will not see this diet to fruition, will not reach sustainable maintenance. 92% of people out of the 100 will not keep their New Year's resolution. We looked at the criteria for diagnosis for substance use disorder in the first module. And we recognized that the 11 criteria are all behavioral. Therefore, if somebody is going to reduce their drug use, maybe work towards abstinence, and ultimately wish to be in long-term sustainable recovery, there's going to have to be a behavior change. We also talked about the addiction, the behaviors become part of the addiction. So not only is it the drug use that has to change, the behavior, but it's everything else that was associated with that drug use. So it's not just one behavior change, such as not eating cookies or not eating carbohydrates. It's not that simple. There's a saying in the mutual aid groups that there's only one thing that needs to change: everything. So for a person who's looking to discontinue drug use or decrease their drug use, there's got to be some significant behavior changes, not just one or two, a lifestyle of behavior changes. We want to look at what drives behavior change. Well, I can tell you that in my model, the Choices model of behavior change, I've studied behavior for a long time. I have my degree in psychology. That what drives behavior is threefold: A plus R plus M. Ability plus reward plus motivation. Then, with all of these three components in place, you actually have a chance at sustainable behavior change. And if any one of them falters at any point, if you lose sight of the reward, or you become a little less motivated, or your funding dries up for your gym membership, the behavior change becomes less likely to be achieved. And yet, as society, we have told stories about those with substance use disorder that they go to treatment, they go to detox, they go to prison, and when they're done, the behavior change should be concrete. Behavior change doesn't work that way. It just doesn't. That's human nature. And what we're dealing with is a disease of behaviors contrary to human nature. Okay, so what do we need? We need ability. We need tools, and we need the resources. If we want to have change our coffee regimen in the morning, we've got to be able to have a replacement behavior for that action that has become a routine and a trigger. That's considered a resource. What behavior are you going to use to replace the automatic consumption of coffee first thing in the morning? That's a resource. I want you to think of resources not always as tangible items, but sort of creative, what do they call it? Creative license or non-tangible items. Tools are the same thing. Tools can be self-determination. Tools can be clothing apparel. If you don't have the right sneakers, maybe you're not going to be able to run a mile a day. Tools can be self-esteem, self-talk, self-worth. The second thing we need is motivation. What is the motivation for this behavior change? Get real. How bad do you want it? Is it a 10 on a scale of 1 to 10? Is it a 5? If it's a 5, the chances of you achieving this goal or this behavior change decrease significantly than if it was a 10 or an 8. How bad do you want this? How bad do you want this, and how willing are you to go to any lengths is directly related to the reward. What's the reward? If the reward is not strong enough, if the reward does not have enough meaning to you, the chances of you working towards this behavioral change and achieving maintenance decreases. So I ask you to think about that behavior change that you tried, I asked you to think about earlier. Did you have the ability? Did you have a plan? A plan is a tool, a plan is a resource. Did you have healthy self-talk? Did you have support? What was your motivation? Was it because somebody else wanted you to do it, or because you wanted to do it to improve the overall quality of your life for now and forever? Or was it just something you thought you would try because everybody's doing it and I want to lose 10 pounds? Did you lose focus of the reward? Did you even determine a reward? Folks, the fact that we get up every day and show up to life at whatever capacity we show up in, that deserves a reward. Life is hard, and we don't do enough rewarding to ourselves. When I get up every day, and when I go through and I make it through the day and I faced all the challenges that came my way, I'm giving myself a reward at the end of the day. And my reward is, good job, Ginger. You finished that project today. You navigated through some challenges that were tossed your way, that were unexpected. You know what? You did a good job today. Give yourself a pat on the back. For folks in early recovery, if they can maintain any period of sobriety, that's a reward, and that should be celebrated. We're not doing enough of that in our society. Keep your eye on the prize. When I go through my days now, I think about, do I want to do this task? And oftentimes it's like, I could take it or leave it. And then I think of the prize. What's my prize? What's my reward if I finish this task in a timely manner? Well, guess what? I don't have to think about it anymore. It's off my desk. It gives space for something that I want to do. I can leave work on time when I want to leave work, when I planned on leaving work, and I can spend quality time in my life. That's my daily reward if I stay on task throughout the day. This is a picture of my dog. This is the governor. Now he's sitting here, and what do you think I have in my hand? A little biscuit. And he'll sit there and he'll be diligent and he'll be committed and patient until he gets that reward, because he's got his eyes on the prize. Now, this is a very simple example of behavior and keeping your eyes focused on the reward. And I want you to think about it. And if you have pets, think about their behavior and how much they focus on the rewards. Like, we all want love. We all want praise. We all want to feel good about ourselves. Those are rewards. Just like the dog gets a biscuit when he is well behaved, we get rewards when we are well behaved. So I encourage you to think about keeping your eye on the reward. So what we see is some common behaviors for those suffering with substance use disorder are always missing work, losing their job, maybe not performing their job adequately, stealing sometimes, not always, lying, fighting or arguing, blaming everyone and everything else for their life circumstances, criminal justice, possible in and out of jail. Maybe their hygiene is poor, they're not showering, they're not brushing their teeth, their clothing is dirty, if they're even getting dressed at all, their hair is uncombed, unkept, poor sleep, anxiety, mental illness, neglecting family responsibilities, leaving their kids alone, not eating themselves, never mind not feeding their children, but not even eating themselves, missing appointments, not paying bills, and continued use despite negative consequences. These are only some of the behaviors that we see common with substance use disorder, and they're not pretty. These are not desirable behaviors that anybody wants to wake up and go, you know what? I think I'll just blame everybody for my problems today. I think I'll leave my kids alone and potentially subject myself to child welfare. And I think I'll miss all my appointments and stop paying my bills. People don't wake up and say that, right?
Hey there, this is Ginger. I hope you're learning a lot from this series. I'm asking for your help in supporting my tireless efforts. There's a few ways in which you can support me. Tell your friends about this video series, subscribe and like each video here on YouTube down below, make a donation on my website, or invite me to deliver this training in person. Together, we can all be part of the solution. Hope to see you soon, and thank you.